you have been doing it for years. Every morning you lace up your shoes, step outside and walk. Maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour. You feel proud of yourself. And you should. But here is the truth. No one has told you yet. That walk you are so faithful to, it is not protecting your heart the way you think it is. And the longer you believe it is enough, the wider the gap grows between what your heart needs and what you are actually giving it. Today, that changes. By the end of this video, you will never look at your daily routine the same way again. You will understand something about your heart that most people over 60 never learn. Not because they are careless, but because no one ever sat them down and told them the full story. Stay with me until the last point, because the final one is the most important thing I will say today. If this is your first time here, this channel exists for one reason: to give your heart the respect and attention it has always deserved. Subscribe right now so you never miss what comes next. Your heart showed up for you every single day of your life. The least we can do is show up for it. Now, let us talk about why walking, as beautiful and consistent as it is, stops being enough the moment you cross 60. Here is what most people believe. They believe that movement is movement. That as long as you are getting off the couch and putting one foot in front of the other, the heart is happy. They picture the heart as something simple, a pump, loyal and mechanical, that just needs to be kept warm. But your heart is not simple. And after 60, it begins asking for something different. Not more. Different. The science behind this is both humbling and extraordinary. As we age, the cardiovascular system undergoes what researchers call vascular stiffening, a gradual process in which the arterial walls lose their elasticity. The blood vessels that were once supple and responsive become slightly more rigid, more resistant. The heart has to work harder to push blood through them. Cardiac output, the volume of blood your heart can pump per minute, begins to decline. VO2 max, which is the body's ability to use oxygen during exercise, drops by roughly 1% per year after the age of 30, and that rate accelerates as we move deeper into our 60s and 70s. Walking at a comfortable pace, what most people do, keeps the heart operating in a very narrow range of effort. It is what cardiologists call steady-state, low-intensity activity. The heart rate rises modestly, maybe to 100 beats per minute. Blood pressure increases slightly. And then, for the rest of the walk, nothing changes. The cardiovascular system settles into a rhythm and simply maintains it. That is not challenge. That is maintenance. And a heart that is only maintained begins to slowly lose the capacities it is not being asked to use. This is not a criticism of walking. Walking is a gift. It is one of the most natural, sustainable, and mentally restorative things a human being can do. But for the heart after 60, it needs to be paired with something more. It needs to be paired with stimulation, the kind that triggers adaptation, that forces the cardiovascular system to grow stronger rather than simply persist. Think of it this way. Your heart has chosen to spend its entire life with you. It has never taken a vacation. It has never asked for a day off. From the moment it first began beating, before you were even born, it committed to you completely. That kind of loyalty deserves more than just maintenance. It deserves investment. So what does that investment look like? Let me show you. The first thing you need to add to your routine is something that most people over 60 have been told to avoid. Resistance training. Not the kind that makes you feel like you are at a bodybuilding competition. Not heavy bars and screaming in a gym. I am talking about intentional, controlled, dignified resistance. The kind that your muscles and your heart have been quietly begging for. Here is what the general exercise science and cardiology literature tell us. Resistance training, even modest resistance training, produces something extraordinary in the cardiovascular system. It improves what is called arterial compliance. In plain language, it helps your blood vessels stay flexible. It reduces resting blood pressure over time. It increases the heart's stroke volume, which means the heart can deliver more blood per beat rather than having to beat more frantically to do the same job. There is also a metabolic dimension here that most people overlook entirely. After 60, the body begins to lose muscle mass through a process called sarcopenia. This is not a minor cosmetic issue. Muscle tissue is metabolically active. It consumes glucose. It helps regulate blood sugar. When we lose muscle, insulin sensitivity drops, blood sugar management becomes harder, and inflammation, the quiet systemic kind that damages blood vessels over time, begins to rise. This is one of the reasons why cardiovascular disease accelerates in people who become sedentary in their 60s. Resistance training reverses this. It rebuilds and preserves muscle tissue. It restores metabolic activity. It gives your heart a cleaner, more cooperative internal environment to work in. And here's what makes it emotionally significant. The moment you pick up a resistance band or hold a light dumbbell and push against it, the moment you make your muscles work against something, you are telling your body that it still has a future to prepare for. You are sending a biological signal that says, we are not finished. We are still building. The body listens to that signal with profound attention. You do not need to go to a gym, resistance bands at home, bodyweight exercises, seated or standing, chair squats, wall push-ups. Even carrying grocery bags slowly and intentionally engages the muscles in ways that walking alone cannot. Start with 2 sessions per week. Keep the movement slow and controlled. Focus on the sensation of the muscle working. That sensation is not discomfort. It is conversation. Your muscles and your heart are talking to each other. Let them talk. The second thing your heart needs after 60 is something that sounds almost too simple to be powerful. Intervals. Not the brutal sprint intervals you see young athletes doing on tracks. Something gentle, intelligent, and remarkably effective. What researchers have begun calling low-volume, high-intensity interval training, or the more approachable version, simply varying your effort during the activity you already do. Here is the biology. When you walk at a constant, comfortable pace, your heart operates in what is called the aerobic steady state. The body becomes efficient, which sounds like a good thing, but efficiency in exercise means the body is no longer being challenged. The cardiovascular system adapts to steady-state activity very quickly, and once it has adapted, the stimulus for further improvement disappears. But when you introduce variation, when you walk briskly for 60 seconds, then slower for 90, then briskly again, something entirely different happens. The heart rate climbs. Blood is pushed through the vessels with greater force. The endothelial cells that line the inside of your arteries, the ones responsible for releasing nitric oxide, the chemical that keeps blood vessels dilated and healthy, respond to that increased blood flow with heightened activity. More nitric oxide is released. The vessels become more responsive. The heart, accustomed to one steady rhythm, is now being asked to accelerate and recover, and in doing so, it becomes better at both. This is what cardiologists mean when they talk about cardiac reserve, the heart's ability to dramatically increase its output when demanded. Walking at a constant, comfortable pace does very little to develop cardiac reserve. Interval variation develops it directly. There is something deeply emotional about this that I want you to sit with for a moment. Your heart has been beating in rhythm with your life for more than 60 years. It has accelerated when you were afraid. It has raced when you were in love. It has pounded when you were angry and softened when you were peaceful. It is exquisitely designed to respond to change, to variation, to the full emotional spectrum of being alive. When you give it intervals, you are giving it the one thing it understands most deeply. You are asking it to feel something. The next time you go for your walk, try this. After 5 minutes of easy walking to warm up, pick up your pace until you are breathing a little harder, not gasping, just noticeably working. Hold that for 60 seconds. Then return to your comfortable pace for 90 seconds. Repeat this cycle 5 or 6 times. Cool down for 5 minutes. That is it. That one change, 2 or 3 times per week, will begin to reshape the cardiovascular efficiency of your body in ways that flat-pace walking simply cannot match. The third thing your heart needs after 60 is the one most people dismiss as irrelevant to physical health. Balance and coordination training. Stay with me here, because this connection is deeper than you might imagine. On the surface, balance training seems like a fall prevention strategy, And it is. Falling is a serious and underappreciated health risk for people over 60, and anything that reduces that risk is worth doing. But the cardiovascular benefits of balance and coordination work are something that most mainstream health advice never mentions. Here is what happens inside the body when you practice balance. Balance challenges activate what is called the proprioceptive system, the network of sensors in your muscles, tendons, and joints that communicate your body's position to your brain. When these sensors are engaged, the brain must process enormous amounts of information rapidly, coordinating responses across multiple muscle groups simultaneously. This is neurologically demanding work, and neurologically demanding work activates the autonomic nervous system in a very specific way. The autonomic nervous system governs everything your body does without conscious thought, including the regulation of heart rate, blood pressure, and vascular tone. It has two branches, the sympathetic system, which accelerates and activates, and the parasympathetic system, which calms and restores. For a healthy heart, you want these two systems to be balanced, flexible, and responsive. What researchers have found is that people who regularly engage in activities requiring balance and coordination, yoga, tai chi, standing exercises, even simple single-leg standing, show measurably improved heart rate variability. Heart rate variability is one of the most important markers of cardiovascular health that most people have never heard of. It refers to the subtle variation in the time between heartbeats, and a high heart rate variability indicates a nervous system that is responsive, adaptive, and resilient. Low heart rate variability is associated with increased cardiovascular risk. Balance training improves heart rate variability, which means balance training directly supports the health of the very system that keeps you alive. But here is what moves me most about this. Balance is independence. When you practice balance, you are not just training your body to stay upright. You are training your body to carry you forward, into rooms, into conversations, into places you still want to go. Every moment you spend standing on one leg or moving slowly through a Tai Chi form is a declaration. It is you saying, I am not done going places. My body is still capable of taking me there. Your heart hears that declaration. It has always been attuned to your intentions, your emotions, your sense of purpose. There is a reason why loneliness and hopelessness are genuine cardiovascular risk factors. The heart is embedded in the biology of meaning. When you move with intention, when you practice balance because you intend to keep living fully, the heart responds to that intention as a biological imperative. Practice standing on one foot while brushing your teeth. Perform slow heel-to-toe walking down a hallway. Try 5 minutes of gentle Tai Chi movements in your living room. You do not need to be graceful. You do not need to be perfect. You only need to be present in your body, attentive to it, responsive to it, in conversation with it. That conversation is one of the most loving things you can do for the organ that has never stopped loving you back. The fourth thing I want to give you today is perhaps the most surprising because it does not look like exercise at all. Breathing. Intentional, structured breathing, the kind that activates the parasympathetic nervous system and directly influences the health of your heart and blood vessels. Here is what most people do not understand about stress and the cardiovascular system. Chronic low-grade stress, the kind that does not feel dramatic but simply hums underneath the surface of modern life, produces a continuous low-level activation of the sympathetic nervous system. Cortisol and adrenaline are released in modest but persistent amounts. The heart rate stays slightly elevated. Blood vessels remain slightly constricted. Inflammation markers in the bloodstream rise slowly and stay elevated. Over months and years, this chronic sympathetic activation causes real measurable damage to the cardiovascular system. It accelerates arterial stiffening. It raises blood pressure. It contributes to the buildup of plaque inside arteries. It diminishes heart rate variability. And here is the extraordinary part. Intentional breathing, specifically slow, deep, rhythmic breathing, is one of the most powerful tools we have to directly counteract this process. When you breathe slowly and deeply, inhaling for 4 to 5 seconds and exhaling for 6 to 8 seconds, You activate the vagus nerve, the primary highway of the parasympathetic nervous system. The vagus nerve signals the heart to slow. It signals the blood vessels to dilate. It tells the inflammatory pathways in the body to stand down. Cortisol levels begin to drop. Blood pressure falls. This is not meditation in the spiritual sense, though there is nothing wrong with that. This is straightforward cardiovascular therapy, available to you for free at any moment, without any equipment. Researchers studying the effects of slow breathing on blood pressure have found results comparable to the effects of some antihypertensive medications. In some populations, consistent slow breathing practice reduces systolic blood pressure by 10 to 15 millimeters of mercury over several weeks. Let that number land. That is a meaningful, clinically significant reduction, achieved through breathing. There is a term in the research literature for what slow breathing does to the heart. It improves baroreflex sensitivity. The baroreflex is the mechanism by which your body automatically adjusts blood pressure, detecting when it goes too high or too low and correcting it. When baroreflex sensitivity is high, the system is responsive and precise. When it is low, blood pressure regulation becomes sluggish and less reliable. Slow breathing directly improves baroreflex sensitivity. Your heart does not just pump blood, it listens. It is connected to your nervous system, your endocrine system, your emotional life, in ways that science is only beginning to fully appreciate. When you breathe slowly and deliberately, you are speaking directly to the part of your heart's regulatory system that determines how resilient and adaptive it can be. Practice this once a day for 5 minutes. Sit comfortably. Breathe in slowly through your nose for a count of 4. Breathe out slowly through your nose or mouth for a count of 7. Do not force it. Do not strain. Simply let the breath become slow and deep and rhythmic. That is a conversation with your heart. One of the most intimate and important conversations you can have. And now we arrive at the last point. I told you at the beginning that this one was the most important. I meant it. The fifth thing your heart needs after 60, the thing that walking cannot give it, that no exercise alone can give it, that cardiologists rarely mention because it falls outside the boundaries of traditional medicine, is social connection. Real, deep, consistent social connection. Here is the science, and it is both remarkable and heartbreaking in equal measure. Researchers studying the biology of loneliness have found that chronic social isolation produces cardiovascular changes comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Not metaphorically comparable. Biologically comparable. The inflammation pathways activated by loneliness are the same inflammation pathways that damage arterial walls and increase the risk of heart attack and stroke. The sympathetic nervous system activation that comes from feeling disconnected and unseen is the same activation that drives up blood pressure and reduces heart rate variability. The heart, it turns out, is a social organ. It is not just a pump. It is part of a system that is exquisitely sensitive to the quality of your human relationships, to whether you feel seen, valued, connected, loved. The chemicals released during genuine human connection, oxytocin, which reduces blood pressure and inflammation, serotonin, which regulates cardiovascular tone, endorphins, which directly affect vascular function. These are not luxury chemicals. They are cardiovascular medicine. There is a phrase I want to give you: anchor social bonds. These are the relationships in your life that make you feel held. The people whose presence literally regulates your nervous system. Research shows that people with strong anchor social bonds have measurably different cardiovascular profiles than people who are socially isolated. Lower resting blood pressure, higher heart rate variability, slower progression of arterial stiffening. Your heart does not age the same way in isolation as it does in connection. After 60, this matters more, not less. The social world can narrow. Retirement, loss of loved ones, changes in mobility. But the biological need for connection does not narrow with it. If anything, it deepens. The heart, having carried you through 60 or more years of life, deserves to spend its remaining decades surrounded by warmth. Reach out to someone this week. Not with a text message, with a real conversation, a phone call, a shared meal, an hour sitting with someone who knows your name and your story. That hour is not separate from your cardiovascular health. It is cardiovascular health. Your heart has an assinatura química, a chemical signature, that is shaped by the love it receives and gives. Every genuine connection deposits something real into what I want you to think of as your account of trust, the biological account your heart draws from when it faces stress, illness, or difficulty. Every warm conversation is a deposit. Every shared laugh is a deposit. Every moment of being truly seen by another human being is a deposit. Do not let that account run dry. So let us bring this home together. You came here believing that your daily walk was enough, and I want to honor you for that walk, for the discipline, the love of your body, the faith you placed in movement. That walk is real. It matters. Keep doing it. But now you know that it needs company. It needs resistance. 2 sessions a week of something that challenges your muscles and sends your body the message that it is still building. It needs variation, intervals that ask your heart to accelerate and recover, strengthening its reserve and keeping your blood vessels responsive. It needs balance, intentional practice that improves the neural pathways governing your cardiovascular system and declares to your body that you intend to keep moving through the world with confidence. It needs breath, slow, deliberate, daily breathing that speaks directly to the parasympathetic system and counteracts the chronic low-grade stress that quietly ages the heart. And it needs connection, the irreplaceable biological medicine of being known and loved by other human beings. These are not tasks on a checklist. They are deposits. Each one goes into the account that your heart has been maintaining faithfully, quietly, without complaint, since before you took your first breath. That heart has never once doubted you. It has kept beating through your hardest days. Through grief and loss and fear and uncertainty, it kept going. Through every moment when you did not know how you would continue, it continued for you. It chose you before you ever had a choice, and it has been loyal to that choice every minute since. The question is not whether you deserve better than just walking. You do. The question is whether you are ready to give your heart what it is quietly asking for. I believe you are. That is why you are still here. If this video opened something in you, if it changed the way you think about your heart and what it needs, please share it with someone you love, someone over 60 who is still lacing up their shoes every morning and believing that is enough. Give them this. This channel is here for exactly this kind of conversation. The kind that treats your heart not as a medical problem to be managed, but as a loyal companion to be honored. And until we meet again, remember this: your heart did not choose to be with you for this long by accident. Take care of it, like you know that.